Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. We're putting together the Drunkard path blocks for the quilt top. So if you want to see what we're working on today, please stay tuned. So here's the plan for today, to put together the blocks in my Drunkard's Path quilt. If you have been following my channel, you've seen cutting the pieces for the Drunkard's Path quilt, stitching the pieces together to form the blocks. I did square up my blocks, and I've laid them out in a lot of different configurations to see which one I like the best. And I had picked out one. I'm going to put a picture of the layout that I chose here. But then I thought about taking that center circle and maybe offsetting it a little bit. And I've tried that a couple ways. The first way I'll put a picture of here. It was a little bit underwhelming for me. I don't know, it just didn't, to me, it doesn't really feel right. But the reason that I wanted to offset it was because I wanted to think about maybe like making a sunrise or something like that in the quilt, so that focal circle would represent like the sun or maybe the moon. I have no idea. So last night, really late last night / early this morning, I decided to give it one more try. And I want to show you that because I'm kind of at a dilemma. I'm not sure which design to use. So I want to show it to you first, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to really make my final decision. It's about 9:45 right now, and I don't really have anywhere to be for the rest of the day. So today is going to be the day of putting that whole quilt top together. So let's see this this sunrise design, and then I'm going to work through a way to try to figure out which pattern I like the best. This is a pattern that I came up with, and to be honest, I really love it. What I did compared to the last one is I moved the focal circle. I moved it up. It was like right here, but I moved it over here. So it's a little bit higher and a little bit more to the right. And I just really, I don't know, I really like it, and it kind of reminds me of a sunrise. And I let it sit out all night, and then when I got up this morning and I came in and I was like, oh my gosh, it's perfect, I love it. So, but I don't want to make a really hasty decision. So what I'm going to do is give myself a little bit more time to think about it. I'm going to reconfigure this in the other way that I chose first, and then I'm going to run out and get some breakfast, and then I'll come back, and then I'll see if when I walk in the door, if it's the same energy that I got this morning when I got up and came in here, or if I need to go back to this design. So I'm actually going to do this part on camera. I'm going to speed it up, but you know, I want you to see like the whole process that it takes to turn this, you know, to do the configuration. So here we go. So here's the original design that I picked. Um, I still really like it, but I'm not 100% sure that I like it as much as the other one. Now, to kind of give myself some time away from it, I'm going to run out to the store, grab some breakfast, and then when I come up the stairs, I'm going to see if I feel that same energy that I felt before. This design, the symmetry makes it calmer, and normally I'm a person who likes symmetry, but I don't know. So I'm going to run out to the store, and then I'll see what I think when I come back. The time is now about 12 o'clock. It's actually about 11:50. I came home. I walked up the steps in the other configuration, and it was very calming, but it just didn't have the energy that I liked. So I'm actually going to go with this configuration for the quilt, and I'm going to call the pattern Jamaican sunrise. And so this is like the sun right here, and then the rays from the sun go out. I don't know. At this point, I want to start sewing. Like I said, I think I can get this done today. The goal is to stitch these rows. There are 10 rows of 8 blocks. So I'm going to stitch the rows first, and I'm going to press the seams in alternate directions, and then I'll go back and stitch the rows together. We'll see, we'll just kind of go one step at a time to see how that works out. My concerns at the beginning are that this fabric is not 100% cotton, so I know it's going to fray, and I'm a little bit concerned about how it's going to press, but I'm ready to check it out and see how it works out. So we'll start, I usually do one row, so I'm going to turn this one over, okay, and then stitch along that right side, do the same thing, and then start putting them together. I'm ready to get started stitching these blocks together, but before I start, I want to make sure that I use a leader ender. These are just literally some scraps that I just picked up off my floor, and I'm going to stitch them first because I'm not sure what this fabric is. I think it's like some kind of rayon or something. I'm afraid of going without a leader ender because it might the fabric might get eaten, and since I've squared the blocks up, I don't really have any fabric to waste. So I'm going to start here with my leader ender, and then I have my first set ready to go. And I'm using a 1/4 inch seam, and I actually have it pretty close to the next to where I'm about to start stitching. I have it pretty close to the previous fabric, so that hopefully it'll go ahead and start pulling it through. Here we go. I'm a little nervous about it, but these are my first stitches. I think that I pulled the stitch length down just a little bit from what I would normally do. Okay, so here we go. I'm just giving it a nice, hopefully consistent 1/4 inch all the way down. And even though I completely whined about squaring these blocks up, it wasn't that bad. Alright, so that's one down. And I have the next set here. And I'm just, again, keeping it fairly close because I don't want any of my stitches to get eaten or my fabric to get eaten. Like really every stitch I make, I'm a little nervous about it. I'm sure I'll get more comfortable as it goes on, but these first few, I don't know. And it could be like a really nervous excitement. And there we go. And what I'm actually doing is I'm going to go back and forth to the to where all the pieces are laid out, cutting my leader ender off. Here we go. Let's see. I'm checking the tension on my stitches. It looks a little tight on where these are going together. So let's go up a number and see if that helps. And then I'm going to open it out, and I'm actually going to press my seams for the first row to the right. So just kind of opening. Let me see if you can see that. Yeah, not quite. There we go. So I'm just going to open it out and give a nice finger press. And if you look, you can see that those seams are pretty tight. So I'm going to try to adjust that tension a little bit. So these are my first two. And they're finger pressed. I'm going to wait and press the whole row after I get it all stitched. So let's finish one row and see how well we do. You can see row one at the top there. You lose, let me see if I can hold it with row two. You lose some of the fabric. You can see with the seam allowances, it really shrinks it. But look at that row. I'm really excited. And I was worried because the fabric, when I sewed this onto itself, it seemed to scrunch up. But then once I pressed it with the iron, it's laying flat, or fairly flat. So one row down, 9 rows to go, and then we'll see what we have before we sew those rows together. Here is the quilt with all the rows stitched. I'm going to have to adjust the camera because we can't see it all, so let's go back a little bit. I actually went ahead and stitched the first 2 rows together just because I was curious to what it would look like. And I really like it so far. I think it's really exciting. Time check is about 4 o'clock. I'm thinking about taking a lunch/early supper break. But I'm going to go ahead and probably go ahead and stitch some of these rows together before I do that. So next step, the entire quilt top will be finished. It is done. The Jamaican Sunrise quilt top is finished. I cannot believe the way it turned out. I really, really, really love it. There are a few little funky parts. Let me show you. Because of the way that the way that I squared up the blocks, there are some places where they didn't really match up, but you can only tell it like there's basically just one row where it's the same color together right here. So let's see. That one looks pretty good. So right here, if you look carefully, you see that it didn't quite match up perfectly. Let's see if there's another one. I mean, from this angle, you know, they look pretty okay. It's not, that's the only issue. I just really like it. Just makes me so happy to see this quilt. And so I'm glad I went with this instead of the other layout that I was thinking about. So I'm going to flip the quilt over just a little bit so that you can see the seam allowances. Let's see. Let me see if I can get closer. I'm pretty proud of them. The seams are nested. They nested really nice. And I actually pressed each row as I finished it. And then when I put 2 rows together, I gave it a good hard press. So I feel like the seam allowances, like if you look right here, this row is going to the left, this row is going to the right. That really helped me to put it together easily. Also, the taking the time to square the blocks up really helped too. I have, because of the nature of this printed fabric, I'm not sure if it's going to fray. So I went ahead and I added a stay stitch 1/8 inch all the way around. So that's pretty cool. See if you can see it right there. Yeah. And overall, it's just a gorgeous little quilt top. I really love it. And I like that you guys were commenting, and one person commented that that she probably wouldn't have chosen these fabrics, but that all the different layouts really allowed them to kind of shine. And so I really like that about it, that it's not really, I mean, of course this isn't quilting fabric, but putting the fabrics together, it turned out really nice. I hope that you've really sensed my excitement about this quilt top. I really, really like it. Time check, it's about 8 o'clock this evening. So it took me, I guess, about 8 hours to finish up the quilt top. But I did take, I took a food break. I took a few other little short breaks. So maybe about 6.5 hours, maybe 7 hours to put this top together. My favorite thing about it is that I took the time and tried it one last time, one last layout, just to be sure that I was making the right choice about it. So I'm so excited about the way it turned out. I'm ready to add batting and binding and backing for it. I have to choose all of those things. I'm thinking about maybe a yellow binding for this quilt, so it'll be a yellow around the entire top edge because it is a sunrise quilt. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Maybe you have some other suggestions of things that I can try for binding and maybe for backing. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends. Thank you so much for following me on this Drunkard's Path journey. I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!